Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Here we are at the Prabhupada House in Melrose, Florida, hosted by Anasuya and Lakshmi Priya. It's November 20th, 2022. David Wolf. And the next part of our program, this Bhakti Yoga Enlightenment program, will read and study and discuss some Bhagavad Gita. This is it's a timeless literature. Historically speaking, it's spoken about a little over 5,000 years ago, historically speaking. So we're studying Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 6, entitled Sankhya Yoga, text 6. Chapter 6, text 6. So we'll start with one word at a time responsibly. Bandhur, Atmat Manas, Tasya, Inat Maivat Mana, Jita, Anat Manas, Tu, Shatrutve, Vartetat Maiva, Shatruvat, Bandhurat Matmanas Tasya, Inat Maivat Manajita, Anatmanas Tu Shatrutve, Vartetat Maiva Shatruvat, Bandhurat Matmanas Tasya, Inat Maivat Manajita, Anatmanas Tu Shatrutve, Vartetat Maiva Shatruvat, Bandhurat Matmanas Tasya, Inat Maivat Manajita, Anatmanas Tu Shatrutve, Vartetat Maiva Shatruvat, Bandhurat Matmanas Tasya, Ina Maivat Manajita, Anatmanas Tu Shatrutve, Vartetat Maiva Shatruvat, Bandhurat Matmanas Tasya, Ina Maivat Manajita, Anatmanas Tu Shatrutve, Vartetat Maiva Shatruvat, Bandhurat Matmanas Tasya, Ina Maivat Manajita, Anatmanas Tu Shatrutve, Vartetat Maiva Shatruvat, Bandhurat Matmanas Tasya, Ina Maivat Manajita, Anatmanas Tu Shatrutve, Vartetat Maiva Shatruvat. Hare Krishna. We're just for those who just arrived online, we're studying Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text 6. So we'll go to the word for word meanings. Bandhu, friend. Atma, mind. Atmana, of the living entity. Tasya, of him. Yena, by whom. Atma, mind. Eva, certainly. Atmana, by the living entity. Jita, conquered. Anatmana, of one who has failed to control the mind. Two, but Shatrutve, because of enmity. Varteta, remains. Atma Eva, the very mind. Shatruvat, as an enemy. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Welcome to you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Now, we're studying Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, text 6. And the translations, for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his very mind will be the greatest enemy. Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The purpose of practicing eightfold yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga for show is simply a waste of time. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy, and thus his life and its mission are spoiled. The constitutional position of the living entity is to carry out the order of the superior. As long as one's mind remains an unconquered enemy, one has to serve the dictations of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, etc. But when the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart of everyone as Paramatma. Real yoga practice entails meeting the Paramatma within the heart and then following his dictation. For one who takes to Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender to the dictation of the Lord follows automatically. All right, so as we continue, I'm gonna chant a few more mantras to continue to invoke auspicious consciousness and atmosphere in our gathering. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Darati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagnalalita Shri Visakan Vitam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhano Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpata Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyeva Cha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Bhagavad Gita chapter 6 text 6 Bandhurat Manas Tasya Yanamavat manajita natmanastu shatrutve vartetat maiva satruvat. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his very mind will be the greatest enemy. Hare Krishna. It's this verse and much of this chapter, it's about the mind. And yeah, so it's like, okay, so we've all experienced a lot of stress and anxiety, maybe agonizing torment from our mind. I don't even need to ask for a show of hands. Who's that? If you've ever experienced, like we've all. And then we can think, yeah, this is so much stress and torment and strain. So I'm gonna go on a vacation on maybe Hawaii or something.
Get away from it all.
Yeah. Here's the thing though. Wherever we go, our mind goes with us. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Like we go to Hawaii or the Caribbean or whatever your dream vacation site, wherever we go, our mind goes with us. That's the news for the day.
Even Greenville?
Even Greenville, South Carolina. No, yeah, mine goes there too. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is philosophy, it's psychology, and it's very practical. Very practical. Right? So just like if we're living with someone in close quarters, right? And it's like, wow, this person is such a dear friend, and we're so resonant. And okay. Or we can contrast that experience if we're living with someone in close quarters, and just like every moment with this person is inimical. This person is like against me. This person is hostile. Okay. So that's our mind. Okay. To what extent is our mind our best friend? Then we can be in Melrose, Florida. We could be in Hawaii. We could be in Siberia. We could be on Neptune or Neptune, Florida. Where we are, then we're with our best friend. And if our mind's our worst enemy. And again, this isn't theoretical. We've all experienced, I don't even need to do a show of hands. We've all experienced our mind being our worst enemy. Right? So this verse, it's about transformation. It's about transforming our mind from worst enemy who causes us torment and agonizing hell to our best friend who's truly bringing us the deepest fulfillment and joy. So that's what this is about. It's a story of transformation. Story of transformation. I'll call it a verse. A quote many of you have heard me quote so many times over the years, even decades. I've heard it attributed to Mark Twain. I've been through many terrible things in my life, and some of them actually happened. So for me, that text by Mark Twain indicates the nature of the material mind. In modern language, sometimes they say the monkey mind, right? Okay, the material mind, like as if life doesn't present enough problems from the body, from other people, from pandemics, from economic downturns, right? I mean, there's so many intrinsic disturbances in life. But then today, my mind's going to create like an extra 2,000 problems. They're not even there, but just like, that's my mind's expertise. It's got like a PhD in creating problems. Okay. Right. All right. So this text is about mind, our relationship with mind. It's about friendship. It's about friendship. So, all right. So true friendship, like with other people, true love, true friendship means like a relationship where we're genuinely supporting and serving each other in our self-realization, in supporting the self to turn towards itself in self-discovery, supporting the self to turn towards the supreme self with an attitude of devotion. So that's true friendship. That's true, yeah. And sometimes true friendship means that we have the atmosphere in our relationship where I'm willing to care enough about you that I'm not caring whether you like me. Right? Genuine friendship, it's not about getting approval. It's not about liking. It's about caring enough about you to be soft as a rose, willing to be hard as a thunderbolt, willing to challenge when I sense you're really self-sabotaging yourself. That permission, guyam akiti prichati, a safe space to reveal the heart confidentially, to share the mind confidentially, to inquire confidentially. Guyam akiti prichati. Okay. So, and as one becomes more and more like dedicated, more and more, as my life goes on, more and more, I want my life, I want to dedicate myself to that fulfillment, that joy, that happiness, that will never be annihilated by time, that happiness that is timeless. And that's self-realization. That's something that no material disturbance, no honor or dishonor, no disease, no financial situation, no catastrophe, no tragedy can take away. Right? Self-realization and devotional connection with the divine, the supreme person. So, meaning that as we become more and more dedicated to self-realization, friendships, in quote, that don't potently support that become less and less interesting. They just become less and less interesting. Like, it's not really where I want to give my time and energy. So, okay, so that's friendship with others. And then, it's a transformational process, transforming our mind. Transforming our mind to be our true friend. So the materially conditioned mind, as described extensively in this chapter, it's going to be our enemy. What's that mean? It means it's material conditioned mind. It means it's always going to be like, I want some immediate gratification. I want some immediate flickering gratification. Yes. That Kamala Dalamala Jivana Talamala Baju Hari Pada Niti Re. That material happiness, which means happiness of the material body, mind, and ego. It's like a drop on a lotus flower, a drop on a lotus leaf. Talamala, and it can just fall in any moment. Not just it can fall, it will fall. And maybe in 5 seconds, maybe in 50 years, maybe in 1 trillion years. But even time spans like trillions of years seems phenomenal. But for the eternal life of the soul, it's not even a lightning flash. Right? So like a fish won't be happy outside of water. So our water is eternal happiness. Happiness that's not related to material past, present, and future. Yeah. So material conditioned mind would be like, okay, what? I don't want to read Bhagavad Gita. I want to watch some TV. I want to watch some TV. I want to just like surf on the internet or something, chat or something. I just want to do that for a few hours. Okay. So then it means like basically my material mind it'll easily take me for 2, 4, 6 hours for something that doesn't serve realization. Actually, it serves me being alienated from me, and that's a terrible tragedy. That's a terrible tragedy. Bhaja Hare Mana Sri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Bindare, that we've taken this human birth. That Durlabha Manava Janama Satsange Toro E Bhava Sindure. We've taken this human form. We have a special opportunity in the human form. Sometimes we use the example of like Some of you have seen my book, Relationships That Work. We use an example there. Like if we have if we get I get a new desktop computer, and you come to my home, and you see that I'm using the computer as a doorstop. So you say, well, what are you doing, David? I say, oh, look, it works great. If the door wants to close, it can't, because the computer's in the way. So I got the smarts. So you might say, well, yeah, David, sure. You can use that computer as a doorstop, but that machine can be used for much higher level functions. You can use that machine to communicate with people around the world, to research about the history of art and science. You can use it for desktop publishing. You can use it for higher level. So the analogy there, it's described that the four essential activities of animal life are eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Eating, sleeping. We can reduce it: eating, sleeping, mating, defending. So, as Teilhard de Chardin said, we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. Right? Just like outside, there's some spiritual beings having a squirrel experience, or having a tree experience, or a blade of grass experience, or a cat experience. Right? So each species in God's creation has its special function. And the special function in the human form of life, Kamasya Nendriya Pichir, Labo Jiveti Yavati Jivasya Tata Jigyasa Nartayas Cheha Karma Bi. Especially that human life's meant to consciously, with awareness, engage in self-realization, engage in searching for and realizing absolute truth. When I say absolute truth, I mean truth that is true and good in all time and space. Simple, very immediate example. If I say, I'm David Wolf, I'm 61 years old, I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here's the news. That's not absolute truth. That's very relative. Was I David Wolf from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania 100 years ago? Will I be David Wolf 1,000 years from now? Nah. That's relative truth. That's not going to be satisfied. Oh, I'm not this body. As the embodied soul continually passes from this body, from childhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at the time of death. That's from second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So that's absolute knowledge, right? I'm not the body. An irreducible quantum of consciousness, call it spirit soul. I'm an atomic unit of sentience that animates the body. I'm an eternal servant of God. That's true in all time and space. That's satisfying. That's satisfying. So the material mind will always take us away from absolute truth. Right? And so, to quote again, third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Evam Buddhe Prambhuvasam Stodhyatmanamatmananta Hisha Tru Mahabahu Kamarupam Darasada. We're urged, not forced, but we're urged, control the lower self. See, the mind's going to be a servant. It's either going to serve our material senses and ego, or it's going to serve higher intelligence. So to control the lower self with the higher self through higher intelligence, through spiritual intelligence. So it's just like, yeah, I just want to watch some TV. Sunday, I want to watch a football game. But it's like, so that's where my mind's going. So.
Oh, that's why it's not so many people do that. That's it.
It's
football.
Yeah. You just had a light bulb going.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right.
That's what my family's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Where's the time for an enlightenment program? It's Super Sunday or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right. So okay, but then higher intelligence. Instead of football, let's read Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So in this way, or so like the mind is like eat, refrigerator. Okay. So we all have urges to eat. All right, so then I can say, all right, I'm gonna, with higher intelligence, I'm gonna eat. And I'm only gonna eat Krishna Prasada. I'm only gonna eat food that's been prepared with love and devotion for God. So in this way, by controlling the mind, directing, channeling, not control, like, but channeling, directing, using our free choice. But that way we gradually train the mind to be our best friend. Because now, more and more, as years go on, I'm less and less, I'm on a gradual upwards. I'm less and less wanting to watch football. Less and less wanting to, my mind is actually more and more excited to read Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm on a gradual spot. Actually, I had an experience yesterday. It was epic. So I was, there I was, and I was deeply Krishna conscious. And then I walked into in Alachua, I walked into the, I don't know what they call it. They probably don't use the term barber shop anymore. I don't know what term it is. They do. Good. Okay, good. Yeah. So I walked in place, like that. And then I mean, so on the radio, there's the football game.
Gators are playing.
The Gators are playing. Yes. Yeah. It's Saturday. Yeah, there we go.
They got beat. She's a biker.
Yeah.
My father.
Yeah.
He tells me the same next morning.
Yeah. But if she and I did like a quiz competition, I would win.
I'm sure.
You're the champion.
Just to be clear on that.
Okay.
So, yeah. So within nanoseconds, I walked into there, and coming in,
You are very Krishna conscious.
I was deeply Krishna conscious. That's what I want you to understand. But then I got attacked. Within nanoseconds, I understood they're playing Vanderbilt. I understood that the team who usually wins almost always is losing. I understood where the ball, I understood the whole context, the whole scenario. My mind went there. So I was deeply Krishna, but then I was unfairly attacked. Okay, so my mind went, and then I was okay. And then two of the ladies who were clipping the hair, one asked the other, after about 30 seconds of my entry, "What's the score?" And then that was profound for me, because I realized I already was very clear on the score. So what I understood was they were a lot more absorbed in their service than I was in mine. Okay, and my mind was a lot more absorbed in the radio like that. So I thought, okay, all right, I had some glimpses of higher intelligence that my mind's being my enemy now. Okay, it's not really helping me in self-realization. So I went to my mind. I said, okay, let's chant some Bhagavad Gita verses. And so for the whole time there, which is like 15 minutes, it was an epic struggle between the higher intelligence and the Jayate Miyate Vakara Chin, Bhagavad. It was an and then interception. It was epic. It was epic. I wouldn't. Yeah. Yeah.
Gita versus Krishna.
Krishna. So I did not succeed with flying colors, but neither did I fail miserably. But I'm just using that. So it was the mind. So the process. So the process. So again, we've all experienced, maybe we're experiencing today, torment from the mind. It can be helpful to use humor. And we've all experienced a lot of pain from our mind. Okay. See, it's human condition. That's why some of you are like, I hardly know, but I know it's true. Okay, because it's just intrinsic in the human condition. It doesn't have to be that way. At the same time, it takes some discipline on a true spiritual path, that this Prabhupada says here. The purpose of practicing Eightfold Yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. So there are processes by which our mind can actually become nice association, nice association. And yeah. So, and that's why, I'm talking about we can go to a vacation spot, this and that. That's why even, this is somewhat esoteric point, but actually, sometimes, like in the Bhagavatam, deep sleep is considered a relatively elevated form of consciousness. Why? Because in regular waking consciousness, we identify with I'm this body, like I'm this tongue, I'm this eyes, and that's illusion. Right? I'm not. The body's like a car. Right? The body's like a car. Right? I drive my car. I want to take care of my car. But if I'm thinking, I am this toy, I'm Japanese because this was made in Japan. That's illusion. Next day I get into a Dodge. Now I'm an American. No, that's illusion. Right? All right. Now, when we go to sleep, in one sense, it's ignorance. It's tamas. In another sense, we're no longer identifying with the body. So there's some subtle refinement of consciousness. But when we're dreaming, we're identifying with the mind. Right now, I'm a king in the palace. I'm flying like a bird. I'm being chased by a monster. So my mind's creating this whole reality, and I'm identifying with it. Okay. So I'm identifying with what's called subtle matter. Bhagavad Gita describes the ontology. Indriyani pranyara indriyabhya pramana manasastu prabude yotu sa paratas yobude paratas tu sa. It describes a hierarchy, starting with the sense objects, then the senses, then more subtle than the senses, or the body, is the subtle material body made of mind, intellect, and what's called a hankara, false ego. And then more subtle than the mind is the intellect, more subtle than the intellect is the spirit soul. So this is very, just very sophisticated yet simple philosophy. Like this Krishna consciousness, it's so simple a child could get it. And at the same time, without a devotional heart, the most sophisticated intellectual will be confused. But both are true there. Both are true there. And so, yeah. And so when we're in deep sleep, not dreaming, well, we're not identifying with the gross body, and we're not identifying with the subtle mind. So it's in a sense, it's a sort of state of liberation. Mm-hmm. And it's also ignorance. Both are true. Both are true. So
how is it ignorance?
It's ignorance because we're not aware of anything.
Oh, you're not.
We're not aware. But I appreciate the question. That because now, and this is, I'll call it, this is a proof of the existence of that irreducible consciousness. It's a proof that we exist as an entity that's not physical. Because when we're in deep sleep, we're not aware of mind, we're not aware of body. But then when we get up after sleeping, we're like, wow, I slept deeply, right? So we have awareness. We have awareness that we slept deeply. That means that when the body's asleep on the bed, there's some entity inside the body that's conscious, that's aware. Now that consciousness is covered, but it gets rejuvenated. So just the fact that we remember, we experience, I slept deeply. So who is this I that slept deeply? That's that spirit soul that's in the body. That's in the body. Okay. Sleep.
Or in the body.
Yeah.
In the body.
The spirit soul's in the body, and the consciousness pervades the body. The consciousness pervades the body. Yes, just like the driver's in the car. The driver's in the car. And and through the mind, we can travel to different places. Still, the spirit soul remains in the car, in the vehicle of the body. Yes. And so, okay, so now I'll call it real conscious liberation, which is above deep sleep. So it's not like, so the more I'm in deep sleep, the more I'm spiritual. Not that, but deep sleep does have its detachment from material body and mind. So actual liberation, means realizing our eternal spiritual identity as not the body, as spirit, soul, and as eternal servants of the Supreme. Okay, a term like to connect with a higher guidance with him. So this verse in Prabhupada, they're talking about to connect with the Paramatma. So the soul's called Atma, and then the Supreme Soul is Paramatma. So the purpose of yoga, and this chapter it's a yoga chapter. In this Bhagavad Gita, this is the source book on all types of yoga. And this chapter concludes with a very well-known verse in Bhagavad Gita. Yogi nama pisardesham madgitena taratmana. Chadavan bhajateyumam samayuktatamo mata. The purpose of yoga is simple loving devotion to Krishna. Krishna is a name for the supreme personal entity, the supreme personality of Godhead. Yogi nama pisarvesham madgitena taratmana. Shadavan bhajateyumam samayuktatamo mata. And this chapter describes a lot about the physical yoga. And it says like, one should go to a sacred, secluded place, like Melrose. It doesn't say that exactly. No, that's the point. That's the point. So it gives instructions about physical yoga. But then what's Prabhupada mean when he says, okay, for one who takes to Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender to the dictation of the Lord follows automatically. So, directly, see, the physical processes of yoga, as well as many other paths, like the physical processes, the idea is to calm the senses enough, sit straight, tip of the nose, and like that. To calm the senses enough to focus on God within the heart, to focus on self-realization, so that the mind and senses are inagitated. And then that leads to suprasoul consciousness, that leads to Krishna consciousness. So what Prabhupada's giving us here, in every purport practically, is he's giving, here's the goal of all these processes. Because even if, like, let's say someone has a process to quiet the mind, like the mind is disturbed by this and that anxiety. So someone has a process to withdraw the mind from all the noise and confusion. Okay. And that can bring some relief. But then what should I positively put my mind on? So that, I found that's answered in Bhakti. Positively, we put, so take your mind off all of the sound and confusion. Okay. But what do I put my mind on? Because here's the thing, our nature is to be active, right? Just like, if we try to, let's think of nothing for the next 10 seconds. Just clear your mind of all thoughts. Don't even think about trying to think about nothing. Just think of nothing. Can't do it. I can't do it. No, because our nature is to be active. The mind active, the soul's active. In the enlightened state, our nature is to be super active. When I become enlightened, then I'll just sleep all day. No. So sure, there's withdrawing the mind and senses from that which alienates the self from the self. But then what to positively put the mind on and engage the senses in? That's bhakti. Bhakti means, well, yoga, like the English word yoke, comes from the Sanskrit yoga. Yoga means to connect. In its essential sense, yoga means the self connecting with itself and self-discovery, the self connecting with Krishna. Krishna is a name for God, connecting with God in devotional service. So just like Marie started our program singing kirtan. So I say, oh, it's like singing a song, like I put on the radio, sing a song. No, it's because we can put on some music, and that's going to agitate the mind more and more. And it's going to distance ourselves from who we are as eternal spiritual beings, servants of Krishna. But then Marie led us in singing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is transcendental sound vibration. This is sound vibration. Put the mind on that. That's what I was trying to do in the barber shop yesterday. I was trying. I didn't fail miserably. I gave myself a C-. Okay. And that's always available. Put our mind on this Mahamantra, it's names of God. So put our minds on names of God, pastimes of the Supreme, the text from Bhagavad Gita or any genuine spiritual literature. Then our mind transforms to become more and more our best friend rather than our worst enemy. Later in this chapter, see, that's what happens. Like later in this chapter, so Arjuna is hearing from Krishna about a lot of the physical processes of that sort of yoga. And then Arjuna says, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavandrita tasyaham nigraham manye vair eva suduskaram. Arjuna says, okay, Krishna, sounds nice, but practically speaking, look, the mind is restless, turbulent, and obstinate and very strong. And to control, it's more difficult than controlling the wind. So, do you have any practical advice, Krishna? He really says that. And he's talking to God here. Give me a break here. I'm not going to do that. The whole thing. This whole. So, like all these other processes, they're meant to bring us to pure devotional service to Krishna. So Krishna says to Arjuna, he empathizes with him. He goes, yeah, it's tough. It's really difficult. He says, and it's possible with practice and detachment. Detachment, first of all, detachment means like patience with ourselves. Right? Like, I've been practicing for 2 weeks now, but I'm not a pure devotee. What's the patience with ourselves? And practice. So that's it. So that's why Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, they're giving us a very practical method to practice, to transform our mind, to transform our experience of life from living in close quarters with our worst enemy to living with our best friend. I have enough experience after 40 years to know the process works. I have some, I certainly wish I was like a lot more surrendered to the process. Prabhupada uses that term here, right? And that for one who takes to Krishna consciousness directly, meaning we don't need to go through the subsidiary process. Prabhupada sometimes calls this is the Krishna, it's the bhakti elevator. He says like, okay, he says like, Prabhupada uses very modern examples because it says like, okay, let's say someone lives 30 miles away. Sure, you could walk and get there in a few days or something, or you could take a car. Or if there's a 100-story building, you could climb the steps. We can take the elevator. Says Krishna, this is the elevator. And practically, it's Harinam, 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 Kevalam, Kalam, Stavina, Gatyanyata. It's Bhakti Yoga. It's only practical process for this age. It's not about, when I say it's the only practical process, and it's not about being a Muslim or a Jew or a Christian or a Buddhist, or I don't regard myself as a Hare Krishna. Practicing a process of self-realization and God consciousness called Bhakti Yoga. And if we look at the essence of what Jesus taught and lived, the essence of what Muhammad taught and lived, the real essence of Buddha's teachings, we'll find it's Bhakti Yoga. that strand of love God in the ancient Hebrew, to use the language that Jesus prayed in. That's like the Maha Mantra from the Hebrew Old Testament. Love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your might. Right? So this is the essential thread. Sure, details might be different in different processes, because God and his pure representatives, like Jesus, like Prabhupada, they're just like any good teacher will meet their student where they're at, meet them where they're at, and then encourage them to expand their knowledge, right? So some, just like, okay, something, so something like, like in the Bible, like I was having this conversation yesterday with Rasa Sindhu. In the first chapter of the Bible, first chapter of Genesis, God gives what is the ideal diet for human beings, vegetarian diet. First chapter, Genesis. Okay, then later you can see, even before the 10 Commandments come in, God's giving a commandment like, don't slice off the leg of animals and just chomp on the leg. Don't do that. If you want to eat meat, at least kill the animal and don't cause it unnecessary misery and agony. What's it mean? It means God at that time was speaking to people who were doing things like chopping off the legs of animals and torturing animals. So now we can understand, like, let's say if God were to just say, okay, no meat, be completely vegetarian, don't kill any animals. Probably those people, most of them, they're not ready for that. So he's meeting them where they're at, and then, okay, at least be a little bit more, a little less barbaric. That's the principle. So similar here, there could be like a class of people that maybe they're not ready to lovingly surrender to serve Krishna with love and devotion. So okay, do these physical yoga and like that. Some are inclined towards the jnana process like that. So it's the time and circumstance principle. God talks to us directly through his representatives. The principles are always the same, and the details might be different according to time, circumstance, and person. So we get here a very practical process. To whatever extent, it's not all or nothing. To whatever extent we choose to embrace it, a practical process to transform our mind from enemy to friend. Again, practically very important, right? We're living in close quarters with this mind, and the process it requires discipline, which I understand is not a very warm and fuzzy term. At the same time, really the process is based on the higher taste principle. It's described. That again, as I put my mind in Bhagavad Gita, I get a higher taste, and I gradually lose my taste for literatures that are not spiritually enriching. I definitely still have a taste to go to the refrigerator when I don't need to, but because for about 40 years, I've disciplined myself to only eat prasadam, I've really lost my taste for food that's not prasadam. Okay, as far as coming to the point where discipline is not a warm and fuzzy term. Thank you. Yes, that was from Damayanti. Maybe it was, Damayanti. Thank you. Yeah, and just like this term also the idea of surrender, but just like, let's say if I want to drive from here to Alachua, Florida, all right, so I surrender to the rules of the road. I don't curse. I don't like driving on the right side or stopping at red light. No, I surrender to the rules of the road, and it's not oppressive, just the opposite. By disciplining myself to follow the rules of the road, I free myself to achieve my goal of Alachua, Florida. Any fields like that. Let's say someone decides, I want to really become expert in physics and quantum mechanics. Okay, so it means we're going to surrender. Okay, wait, we're going to surrender to some university program, surrender to some teacher. We're going to say, oh, here's the textbooks for Physics 101. Here's the textbooks for Master's Level. I'm going to surrender. And surrender means my brain's turned on. Oh, I read this here. Teacher said that. I have a question. I trust that the teachers, the books, they have the answers. So surrender doesn't mean, I become a blind follower. Blind following is very discouraged in this process. But it's like, I surrender to an authority who has that knowledge of, the government has that knowledge of rules of the road. I surrender, and it frees me to achieve my goal. Ah, yes, I trust this physics professor. Yeah, he can teach me quantum mechanics. Yeah, okay, so I'll surrender. And the surrendering process involves a reciprocation relationship, question and response. So here, we're encouraged, to whatever extent we choose, encouraging us 100% to approach a bona fide spiritual teacher who is fully realized in the distinction between spirit and matter, and fully realizing the distinction between spirit and supreme spirit, fully realized in what it means to give one's life 100% to this process of devotional service to God. Surrender, ask questions in a submissive spirit of discovery, and render service. And through that service, we receive Divya Gyan. So this particular verse, it's a verse about the mind. It's a verse about friendship. Bandorat mat manastasya yina mevat manajita nat manastu shatrudve vartetat neva satruvat. So text 6 of chapter 6, Bhagavad Gita. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his very mind will be the greatest enemy. Hare Krishna, and thank you for your presence and attention. And I welcome at this time, if anyone would like to share any comments, inspirations, or realizations, or ask any questions or comments.
So you mentioned the personal spirit self, I guess.
The personal spirit self. Yeah.
And then you mentioned consciousness that is pervasive.
Yes.
Now, before you went to the barber shop,
Yeah.
is there a difference in your thinking or in your experience between the personal spirit self and the consciousness that is pervasive? Is it a matter of degree?
Okay. All right. Thanks for your question. I mean,
Your experience.
in my experience. Yeah. Well, Mike's
Christian consciousness. Were you in Christian consciousness before the barbershop, or were you in personal spirit self-consciousness? So
Okay.
is there a difference?
When I said I was deeply Krishna conscious, it was somewhat tongue in cheek.
But whatever, you were in touch with something nice.
I was. Yeah. So, okay, I experienced myself as a person, and it can sound simple or obvious, but there's a lot of philosophical substance and distinctions in what I'm understanding from your question, and so I'll share my personal experience in the context of my understanding of Bhagavad Gita. It's described in Bhagavad Gita, Natvevaham jatunasam natvam name janadipan, Nachevana bhavishima sarvevayam atatpram, which says basically that the translation is Krishna speaking to Arjuna, and he says, never was there a time when you did not exist, nor me, nor all these kings on the battlefield, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. The meaning, or at least a meaning, is that we're eternally persons. We were spiritual persons before this body took birth, and will continue. Hare Krishna Kanchambala, Hare Bol, welcome. And will continue to be persons after the demise of this body. Okay, so we're spiritual persons, and just like a basic principle, a basic philosophical principle. Welcome everyone. Hi. That what exists in the effect must be there in the cause. So just as we're persons, it makes sense that our source is a person. Now, what's the nature of the personhood of source, of God, we get realization about that to the extent that we give ourselves to this process of bhakti. And then the process of devotional service to God, just like we're persons. So just like if I want to know anyone here, well, one way to try to get to know you is I could analyze you. I can, try to judge and analyze you and observe you. And I might get to know something about you, but that would be relatively superficial. If I really want to get to know you intimately, the process is different. If I really want to get to know you intimately, the process is I gain your love and trust by serving you, by showing understanding. Then you choose to reveal yourself to me. That's the process to get to intimately know a person of evolved consciousness. So similarly, to know that person of most evolved consciousness, our very source, the source person. So that's now. So the way you worded your question about consciousness, I found it very interesting. So we as the spirit soul inhabiting the body, we are conscious and we are consciousness. Both are true. Yeah, thanks for that.
Same juice.
Same juice. I like your colorful reflection. Just like a ray of light. A ray of light, it's made of light and it's illuminating. It's light and it's illuminating. So we are made of consciousness. We are consciousness and we're conscious. Thanks for your questions. Any other? Yes, online. Stephanie.
Yes. Thank you so much for this program and this talk. I've been recently getting more serious about surrender with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm noticing a lot of powerful results from chanting a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot more than I was doing, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
And so it's really encouraging. It's something that I want to try to be absorbed in as often as I can.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing like I have more of a natural capacity for service. It's just a natural affinity that I have. There isn't as much, I guess, resistance or needing to make myself available or needing to like practice self-care. It's just more so like a state of being that I've felt connected to innately, but now it's just like easy to be there.
Very, very organically, very naturally. It's like just that state of being that is the core of your being. It's emerging as you're chanting more and deepening your surrender to this process of bhakti.
Yes. And I'm setting certain boundaries in my life, and I feel that God is speaking to me more clearly, and there's just a lot of upward spiral energy right now that I'm experiencing. And so yeah, I'm just being with that, working on detachment, increasing my discipline and faith, and also I guess I had a question, so I just wanted to share that, like that's where I'm at, and I'm feeling really inspired and connected to what you've been sharing, and less identified with my mind, it feels like, and more surrendered to God and timing and stuff. So I think the question that I had that came up was, I was recently supporting a woman, and I first asked her, what's your relationship with God? And just to gauge where she was at. And she kind of gave this answer that was like, so then I was more careful about using language that she would find more accessible.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I'm curious from your standpoint, like how you might encourage like a spirit of devotion to the Supreme, like that language you said, simple loving service to God, like how you might phrase that intention to like lost souls or just people who are not who do not yet have a personal relationship with God. Like what yeah, does that make sense?
Okay, yeah. Thanks for your question. I appreciate your sharing, Stephanie. I appreciate hearing, what's happening for you in your spiritual life. I'm reminded there's a text in Bhagavad Gita, Satatam Kityantomam, Yatantas Chadrita Vrata, Namasyantas Chamam Bhaktya Nityayutu Pasate. Thank you. And that described that verse it's about chanting. It's about chanting. And the verse recommends that we chant just always, 24 hours a day. It actually uses the term always, like satatam, always, nitya, like that. That nitya tu pasate. And it says dritavrata, chanting with Adana. Here you're deepening your commitment to this process, and as Krishna says, this process is directly experienced, and you're experiencing the results. And so that's very very moving for me to hear. So I think like Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he meets anyone where they're at. Like there's a section in chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, like, well, first of all, me personally, I don't really prefer the term God. I actually don't like it very much. I use it because I think sometimes it's like the best term that's going to communicate. But God is very generic, just like, someone can call me person. Hey, person. Someone could call you person. And that's true, we're persons, right? But then someone with a more closer relationship, someone might call me Dr. Wolf. Someone else might call me David. Two people call me Dad, like that, right? So we're all persons. So God's kind of like the generic name. It's like person. And then like there's more intimate names, like Krishna, Rama, like that. So, but like there's a section in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12. Krishna talks about loving devotional service to the Supreme Personality of God. And then Krishna goes, all right, and if you can't do that, then do this. You can't do that. Okay, let's put some words. Krishna says, like, yeah, like, and it's like, if you're not ready for that, just serve something, serve your nation, serve your family, serve something higher than yourself. So depending on, my sense of where a person's at, I might ask, because we know every spiritual being and having a human experience, they want to be and feel purposeful, right? If we're simply living for, maintaining the car, eating, sleeping, mating, paying the rent, it's just not going to be satisfying. We're not going to thrive. It's like low level survival. Every human wants to everyone wants to be like, I want to make a significant difference in the world. Everyone wants that. Everyone wants to serve something bigger than themselves. So if someone's like not relating to God or even spirituality or divine, sometimes I'll use words divine, the ultimate, the absolute. There's different words we can use. Ultimate. But I might say, what's happening for you in terms of serving something bigger than yourself? See where that goes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thanks.
Rosa.
Earlier in your speaking, you gave a definition of friendship to other than ourselves. I really enjoyed that definition. May I ask to hear it again?
Okay. Yeah. So what Rosa asked about when I talked about friendship. So true friendship, a relationship where we're genuinely supporting each other in our self-realization, genuinely supporting each other for the self to turn towards itself in self-awareness, and for the self to turn towards the Supreme in an attitude of devotion. That's what truly being a friend is. Thanks for your question. Any other comments or questions at this time? Yeah, Rosa.
What that makes me think of was actually her question, because something I'm vaguely aware of is the concept that we cannot give to others what we do not give ourselves.
Mm,
So how can I be a friend to others if I am not first a friend to myself, which would mean helping myself know those things.
thanks for that. I appreciate that expansion. Yeah, I'm not sure if everyone heard on the internet that Rosa is sharing. Like, yeah, we can't give to others what we don't have in ourselves. So if I'm empty in my own self-realization and connection with spirit and God, it's going to, my attempts will be hollow to give to others. And that points to this idea of practice. That's why I get for about 40 years now, since I'm just 2 years old. Yes. Honestly, a clear throat. I don't know why. Since the early 80s, since I'm in my early 20s or so. Each morning, like I engage in devotional practice, chanting and spiritual reading. Each morning I engage in devotional practice, because then I'm giving some attempt that I'm filled up, that I'm filled with connection with spirit. I mean, of course, if I practice more attentively and with more sincerity, I'd be more filled up. But at least, making some endeavor to follow the rules of the road for spiritual life given to us on behalf of Sri Krishna by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So that's why, it's important to be filled up for most everyone, in my experience, to have some daily practice where I'm cultivating my genuine realization of who I am as spirit, soul, as not the body, as servant of Krishna. And to the extent that I'm alive in my practice, then when I share, like if I'm doing a service, like sharing realizations on Bhagavad Gita, then there's potency. And to the extent that I'm alienated from myself, and even in my so-called attempts, that they won't have potency. So it's such a valuable point, Rose. Thank you. Hello, Valerie.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Hare Krishna. Damayanti.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for the class. I was just had a small thought when I was listening to you speak, that it's like humbling to admit I would like to be a devotee of God.
Yeah.
Because compared to my conditioning of there's no concept of let's be devotees of God.
Yeah.
Or of Krishna. There's no concept in my conditioning and generally in my relationships and in society. So it's just do I take a stand? I want to be a devotee of Krishna. I want to be a devotee of God. And it's sort of humbling, and there can be some, I guess for me, some shy feelings of oh, I really want that. And to admit that, even to admit that to devotees, just I do want to go for this, to let it be seen, to let it be known. And then actually on the same token, or on some other token or same token, I don't know. It's really humbling to see I have not already become a devotee. I'm not a devotee at all. It's oh, that's that can be so embarrassing in a way. It's not exactly humbling, but it's a little bit embarrassing. I'm so far away from my nature, from my true nature, and yet being who I really am and living in alignment with the truth is my value. And yet look at how far I've come from living in alignment with the absolute truth. So it's either way, it's a little bit humbling and a little bit embarrassing, whether you go for it or you don't. I don't know. It's just, I was just thinking about that either way, it's like you're humbled basically about the reality of like, I'm either not, or like, I'm going to go for it. That's my thought today.
Thank you, Damayanti. Thanks for sharing. Hare Krishna. I'm moved by your personal sharing. There's a lot of points there. Yeah, it's like, well, I'm remembering one conversation with Prabhupada, a lecture. He says something to the effect of, he says, "Oh, to be a devotee, to be a devotee of Krishna." Whoa. He said, "No, but we're aspiring to be servants." He just made that distinction, like, because like servants can be like more grounded, like a devotee. That's like a condition of the heart. Like, oh my God, my heart's not there. But like, okay, today, how can I serve? Okay, let's read some Bhagavad Gita. All right, let's do some kirtan. All right, let's distribute some book. So Prabhupada make that distinction, devotee and servant. And yeah, I relate to what you share, because I've been, because one thing your sharing is very encouraging, because like I'm hearing you're clear on your path, and so it can be humbling. But yeah, and that's the point, like to transform our mind from worst enemy to best friend. It starts with like, yeah, I want to do that. Yeah, I want to do that. And then here's the path. And this path is called bhakti, right? Because it's not just detaching the mind from matter. It's also positively engaging the mind in spirit, spiritual sound, spiritual dancing, spiritual relationship. So here's the path. And then, okay, yeah, I want to progress. I want to enter the path and progress on this path of devotional service to God, to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. This is my goal. And that's to take a stand for that, humbling. And because, because sometimes it's pretty common when someone comes out, yeah, just material life isn't my goal, just, to accumulate more toys and stuff. That's not my goal. And and at some point someone comes, yeah, my goal is to realize that I'm God or something. I mean, that's pretty common. Okay. And then they'll come to like someone, people come to me. So and they assume that that's the goal. Oh, yeah, you're not. They assume, so your goal is to realize that you're God. No, my goal actually is to realize that I'm a servant of God. And then for some people, that's stunning. That someone takes a stand for that, and it is, yeah, right. It's like, I'm the enjoyer of material energy. No, I'm going to be spiritual. Wow. That's why it's called the last trap of mind. Oh, actually, I'm God. I just haven't. And of course, you get into all sorts of philosophical contradictions, like, how did God forget? If I am the omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent personality of Godhead, how come just yesterday I couldn't find my car keys? All sorts of philosophical conundrums like this. And so, and I just personally relate to what you're saying, Damayanti, in the sense of like, because if I look at maybe it's maybe about 40 years since I, at some level, dedicated myself to this process of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness. It's about 40 years since, at least at some level, I dedicated myself. I said, those first months when I dedicated myself, I was a pure devotee. And it's kind of going backwards, but it's actually part of the process, because actually I wasn't as pure as I was telling myself back there in 1983. Okay, so
That's nice to hear.
yeah, a little encouraging. So, and I could see, like, in one sense, there's plenty of reason for me to feel discouraged and embarrassed. Like, in 40 years, oh my God, like I progressed like 2 inches on the path, and there's like 10 million miles to go. Oh my God, that's pretty disheartening. In the other sense, I'm actually not disheartened. I'm quite inspired, because I can also say, I do say it's true for me. Those 2 inches are more valuable to me than 1 million miles of progress on any other path, in whether in this direction or that direction. Those 2 inches, if in my, I don't know if I'll be in this body another day, year, 30 years, I don't know. But if I can progress another 2 inches, that's more precious than any material advancement like that. So I'm inspired, although there's plenty of reason to feel embarrassed too. Thank you, Damayanti. Rosa.
Going off of what you were just saying, so there's a concept that I've been struggling with. I don't know
Yeah.
that if we are God, the concepts that I'm looking at are the difference between being servants of God, which could also be defined, and these are swords I know how to use, as like predestination,
Okay.
versus taking a personal responsibility for being wielded in that way. And I weigh those things and I try to understand, because I try to take more personal responsibility.
Yeah.
But to me, what that looks like is following intuition and flow. And I believe that that's where those two things meet.
Okay.
Could you maybe expand on that?
Okay. I could expand on what I'm kind of thinking I'm understanding, but I guess before I comment, I'd like to hear more of what you mean. I'd like to be more clear on what you're saying.
Sure. So I had a personal experience recently where I had the first surgery of my life, right? I was disabled in a way I couldn't do things for a time. I had a friend leave their work and stay with me for a week in basically servitude. They cooked, cleaned,
Yeah.
they cleaned me, they helped me.
Yeah.
And when I thanked them in extreme gratitude, they said, "Don't thank me, thank God. I'm a servant of God."
Wow.
And my response to that is, okay, I mean, I understand, but to some extent, you have to take personal responsibility for choice.
Yeah.
And the ways that you allow yourself to be wielded.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think someone could
Yeah.
use that same rhetoric
Yeah.
for not taking responsibility.
Okay.
I feel like those same concepts could be used for someone to say, "No, well, it's out of my hands."
Right.
And so where is the part where we hold our personal responsibility and really wield it?
Thanks for that, Rosa. Yeah. Thanks for sharing your story and the philosophical questions there. Philosophical, ethical, moral. Sure. Thank you, Rosa. Thanks for sharing that. And so, yeah, that. Right. So in the purport, Prabhupada uses the term surrender. So first of all, what you shared and what I understand your realizations are, I resonate with them. So like your friend can say, "Don't thank me, thank God." Well, okay, so there's truth there. At the same time, sure, your friend was an instrument for God's love. It's true. At the same time, your friend surrendered herself, and she could have surrendered herself to go to the club every day, right? She could have surrendered herself to the material energy to just watch TV that week, right? She could have surrendered herself to material energy, but she surrendered herself to God's love, so she gets credit for that. And it's certainly, I get she's a humble person, and she certainly yeah, and that's that's humility, that like, yeah, I'm an instrument of God. And just to relate that to the story of Bhagavad Gita, we could say, because at some point Arjuna fought the battle of Kurukshetra, he was victorious. He said Arjuna didn't do anything, it was all Krishna. And it's true in a sense, but Arjuna surrendered. So she surrendered to her service to God, and that's admirable, and that's inspiring. And yeah, and then because this idea of like, well, it's all God, that, I mean, there's truth there, but that can be used, that's become a common term, that can be used as the proverbial spiritual bypass, to avoid responsibility, or even let's say something apparently unfortunate happens in our lives, apparently unfortunate, maybe a disease, maybe a economic devastation, or unfortunate things. Okay, on a material level. So we could immediately say, I know it's God's plan for me. I know it's God's plan for me. And it might be true, it might be God's plan, but am I going there artificially? Am I going there without realization, prematurely? Because am I going there without looking at my responsibility? Am I going there am I going there without looking at what emotions am I feeling? Because there's powerful messages in those emotions. But instead of maybe feeling the pain or the anger or the shame and being with those emotions and let them inform me, I'm avoiding them and going, I'm a very spiritual person. I know it's God's plan. I'm doing a philosophical spiritual bypass. And then I'm just a bit more in like, so we're not God, we're servants of God. And so much of this whole process, the special opportunity in the human form of life is to remember who we are as servants of God. Because right now, our natural service propensity in material condition life is directed in ways that are life alienating rather than life enriching. In a sense, qualitatively, we're godly. Yeah, our goal is not to be God. Our goal is to be truly godly in our character, like your friend and her humility. She's godly. At the same time, we discussed philosophically, what's happening there. So yeah, she gets credit for surrendering to God's love. And so just like the sun rays in the sun as an analogy. Okay, so let's say if we're here at 6:37 a.m. in the morning, we might say, the sun's coming in. The sun's coming into Prabhupada House in Melrose. Now, when I say the sun's coming into Prabhupada House in Melrose, is it that the sun globe is here in this? No. Okay. But the sun rays are non-different from the sun. So that's why it's true, the sun's coming in. So the sun rays are non-different. At the same time, the sun rays are not exactly the sun. Sure, it's not, they're not completely different and they're not exactly the same. Just like the sun rays, they're illuminating and they give off heat and light, just like the sun. But quantitatively, the sun gives off trillions and watts every second. And so similarly, we're not exactly the same as God, but we're not completely different. Just like God's eternal, we're eternal. God's spiritual, we're spiritual. God's full of knowledge, we're full of knowledge. But we're like the sun rays. Thank you, Rosa. Sir.
First, thank you for, I can't go in the checkout counter and ask this question.
Yeah. You appreciate this opportunity for true
Yeah.
dialogue.
So I experience a certain, sometimes it's like a transcendent, untouched by the world and its strength, because it's not affected by this world of the being.
Yeah.
And then there's also the personal aspect sometimes where it's like, oh, this is a loving, almost a little emotional too with God. So there's the bhakti, you call it, I guess.
Yeah.
And then there's also that in person. So they're both almost like there's a personal and an impersonal simultaneously. Now, I don't know what happens when my body's not here.
Okay.
And even the people that write the Krishna, whoever wrote this, they were in a body. So I don't go with people who died and came back. No, they didn't die. They were near that, different. So what does your tradition say about both the impersonal and the personal aspects?
Thank you. I appreciate your question. So this tradition of the Bhagavat it's described, there are three primary aspects of realization of the absolute. And we won't go into it so much here, but one aspect is the impersonal, and that's called the Brahman. So that's it's a valid realization of the absolute, the Brahman, the oneness of everything, And another aspect of realization of the absolute is Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. So the oneness of energy. So when one is realizing in devotion the personality of Godhead, then then they're naturally also realizing the oneness of the energies, right? So it's, the technical term is achintya beta beta tattva. The philosophy means simultaneous and inconceivable oneness and difference. So everything is one because everything's God's energy. And simultaneously there's diversity in the energy. Okay. So like we're distinctive persons, and this body and the souls that we are, they're all God's energy. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. And so this process of bhakti is like, it's cultivating the art and science how to respond to the different energies in ways that move us to deeper and deeper realization of how everything is yoga, how everything's connected with God. So the oneness of all, that's an aspect of God realization. And that aspect, just like now, and that aspect, it's just I hear when you were sharing, like there's peace, there's relief from there's relief from the disturbances of material life, to realize the oneness, the impersonal oneness, that there's relief there. And if we stop our spiritual path at the impersonal oneness, we won't be satisfied. We won't be satisfied. We'll feel some relief from the material disturbances. And at the same time, we're going to be fully satisfied when we engage in spiritual devotional relationship with God in the center, and all our human relationships also have God at the center. And because we can see we're all seeking for ananda, we're all seeking for bliss and satisfaction and fulfillment and peace through relationships. And we're all very frustrated in that attempt. Again, I might not even know all of you so well, but I know it. And they're all 0.72 billion people here. So to the extent that we seek fulfillment in material relationships, it will be a festival of misery. And to the extent that we put Krishna, God, in the center, then we experience the natural bliss of the soul. But even though we're frustrated in attempts of material relationships, still we can see we're seeking relationship. So if our ultimate spiritual goal doesn't include relating, personal relating, it's going to feel incomplete.
While we're in the body. My guru, in we asked him, what happens to the God? He says, die and find out. Sees this time. And I'm just curious about when I no longer have this person, Steve, what about that aspect? That, because I love the person, bhakti part too, but when I die, when I leave, what is that? Then just in person, is it just Brahman?
No. Steve continues on. Here's the thing, Steve won't die. Steve won't die. The body that Steve's in will die. To be more technical about it, the body that Steve's in is already dead. Stay with me. And the body that David's in is already dead. To be more technical about it. Okay? Just like if we're driving a car, to use that analogy, right? The car, maybe for an alien from another planet, they might look like, oh, on this planet Earth, there's living entities called Toyota and Honda and Renault and Mercedes-Benz. And sometimes these parasites called human beings get in. But no, actually, the cars, right, the Volkswagens and the Chevrolets, the cars they're made of dead stuff. They're made of plastic, metal, and rubber. They're made of dead stuff. They appear alive because the driver's inside. Similarly, the body's made of dead stuff, but it appears alive because the spirit soul that is the actual person, that's the actual David, that's the actual Steve, because the spirit soul is in the body. So just let's do a little thought experiment. Imagine that you're looking at a photo of yourself from when you were 5 years old. Okay? Now, when you look at that photo, Do you say, who is that person? Who is that stranger? No. I say, that's David when I was 5. That's Steve, that's Devin when I was 5. Now we know from science that there's not one molecule, not one atom, not one subatomic particle that's in the body now that was there at 5. So the physical has completely 100% changed, right? We say the cells and molecules grew. No, that's wrong. They didn't grow. It's complete. There's not one molecule the same, right? Still, there's some constant identity that you call Ashwani, I call David, you call Steve. So that indicates that identity is something completely non-physical. We call it soul, call it irreducible unit of consciousness, call it, right. So that non-physical entity, so the body's already changed. The body's changed. We don't have exactly the same body we had when we walked through the door half an hour or 2 hours ago. Body's always changing, but there's some constant identity remains the same that I call David. So at the change of the death, what we call death is just another change of the body, which in a sense is already dead, right? And so at the change of body we call death, then the soul continues on. And it doesn't have to be accident about what's going to happen to the soul after. We can learn the science of consciousness. Actually, it's described. We can learn according to the consciousness we develop in this lifetime, that will tend to be the consciousness we're absorbed in bhava at the time when the soul leaves the body. And that consciousness will take us to a next body. Just like some of us will say, oh, I don't believe in reincarnation. And sometimes even say from some people who call themselves Christian, I don't believe in reincarnation. I just believe in heaven or hell. So I'll say, so you're saying you believe in reincarnation? Because basically you're saying when this body dies, you'll be in hell suffering in some body, or you'll be in heaven enjoying in some body. That's the idea. When this body dies, we continue. So it's described in Bhagavad Gita. Yam yam vapi smran bhavam chajatyan kalevam tam tam eveti kantea saratad bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being we're absorbed in at the time when the soul leaves this body, which will be heavily influenced by how we live our life, then that where that consciousness, where that mind is absorbed, that'll take us to our next body. That gets the whole science there. And so that's why it's recommended as much as possible in this life to be absorbed in service to God, names of God, for example, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Janalabha Prapumsam Antenarayana Smriti. The perfection of human life is to be absorbed in the names of Krishna at the time when the soul leaves the body, what we call death. And so that's why this is
So in your tradition, the wave that breaks back into the ocean, that's a bad analogy in your tradition. The wave, there's something about that particular wave that lasts.
Yep. We're eternally persons. We're eternally persons. That's correct. We're not going to lose our personhood after the death of this body.
I'll let you know.
Thank you, Steve. Rosa.
I wanted to build on that. So I've heard a philosophy that whatever we manifest in this lifetime, at the time of our death continues. So if we've created a personal hell here, it will continue. If we've created a personal heaven through good acts, it will continue.
Yeah. According to the consciousness we create here, if we create a hellish consciousness of greed, envy, lust, hatred, then we take that with us when we leave this body. And if we create a consciousness, of compassion and responsibility and service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we take that with us. And if we're completely absorbed in loving devotional service, when I say loving devotional service to God, it doesn't ignore humans or animals. Just like to use an analogy, devotional service to God, mulani shechanini. Metaphorically, it's like watering the root of a tree. If we water the root of a tree, naturally all the branches, leaves, and twigs are nourished and nurtured. So we serve God. Naturally, all the races and genders and species and nationalities, all the whole universe is served. So we're fully absorbed in service to Krishna. Then when we leave this body, we're not forced to take birth in another material body. And then our eternal spiritual body is revealed, and we relate with God in our eternal spiritual body. Thank you, Rose. Hare Krishna, thank you all for your presence and attention. In the next part of our program, we're gonna chant mantra. At the start of the program, Marie led us in chanting mantra in a form known as kirtan. The next part of our program, for those who choose to participate, will chant mantra in a form called japa. So, Steve, thanks for joining us. Yeah, thanks for joining us, Steve. I appreciate your intelligence and association. Yeah. I'll take this. So, okay, so really the essence or principle of any meditation process or even any multimedia presentation is that the more senses that are engaged in a activity, the easier it is for the mind to focus, because the senses are grouped around the mind. So in mantra meditation, again, it's a very world-embracing, life-embracing process. It's not about rejection. It's not about don't think of this. It's about positively, when we do mantra meditation, we're positively engaging the sense of hearing, the sense of speech, and when we use beads, the sense of touch in the process of spiritual meditation. It's meditation not on silence, it's meditation on spiritual sound vibration. And so for using japa beads for the mantra yoga, it's generally recommended to use right hand, thumb, and middle finger, and to start to hold the bead next to the bead with the tassel. To hold the bead next to the bead with the tassel, right hand, thumb, and middle finger. And on that bead, to chant one Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then to move to the second bead away from the tassel, and chant again one mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then to move to the third bead, and again one mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My process is simple. We chant and we do our best to focus our mind on each the mantra and be with our experience and just notice our experience. This strand, not including the bead with the tassel, the strand has 108 beads. For those who want to participate, we'll chant together one round, which means we'll chant on every bead except for the tassel bead. We'll chant 108 mantras. This, again, there's many mantras in many languages, many mantras. A true mantra is composed of the names of the divine. And it's described about this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. It's described in the ancient Vedas. Iti Shodashakam Nam Nam Kalikama Shanashanam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That in this particular age called Kali Yuga, this particular mantra composed of 32 syllables, 16 words, It's especially recommended for transforming our mind from enemy to friend, especially recommended for self-realization and developing love for God and devotional service to God. And the mantra has words, and it's composed of 3 words in a particular combination of 16 words. Each of the 3 words of the mantra are names of the divine. Like Hare is a name of the divine that indicates the feminine essence of God. Krishna means the all-attractive person. We all have attractive potency. We're attracted to others with attractive potency. So who's the source of all attractiveness? That's God, Krishna. Rama is a name for God that indicates the reservoir of all pleasure, all bliss, all happiness. As we indicated during our discussion, we're all pleasure-seeking entities. That's natural. Ananda Mayo Vyasat. The problem is we tend to seek our happiness and pleasure in places and directions that often, practically always, cause more misery than pleasure,
Negates.
either pretty quick or down the road. So when we seek our pleasure in serving God, Rama, then that's an ever-increasing, ever-deepening bliss of the soul that nothing material can interfere with. So again, the process is chant, do our best to hear each word of the mantra, and be with our experience. Let's start with the first bead next to the bead with the tassel and chant 1 round in unison. Let us begin. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you for chanting Hare Krishna. And again, this process of chanting this mantra, well, we just had an experience in the process. And this process is most recommended to be undisturbed by the intrinsic and unavoidable disturbances of the world. If we're trying to base our happiness or fulfillment or peace or security on fixing the disturbances of the world, whether the world is our mind, our body, other people, so many categories of disturbance. Will always be frustrated, that will always be chasing the carrot on the stick. And so we do have opportunity to recognize the disturbances, not be disturbed by them, respond to the disturbing context in a way that deepens our enthusiasm for self-realization and serving Krishna with love and devotion. And this mantra is most recommended. It's available all the time. We can be driving and singing Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. We can be walking. Right now we're here in this room. We can chant while we're standing or sitting or walking alone with others. It's described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who rejuvenated this timeless practice of chanting Hare Krishna Nam Namakri Bahu Dan Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smarane Nakla. He said, for this process of chanting Hare Krishna to be powerful and effective, there's no rules or regulations. And again, you can chant standing, sitting, in like that. And so and A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, he brought this eternal process. It's eternal and timeless and ancient, and he brought it to the West about 57 years ago. And I know for me personally, the main cornerstone of my spiritual life for about 40 years is I made a vow about 40 years ago to chant at least 16 rounds per day on the japa beads. And there's many things in my life I feel good about and proud of. And the accomplishment that I'm most proud of is that I fulfilled that vow to chant at least the 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day. For me, that's I'm reminded of a quote from Martin Luther from the Protestant Reformation. He said, if I didn't pray to God at least 3 hours every morning, I wouldn't have time for everything else. Because he was asked how do you accomplish so much? He wrote so many books. He started all Reformation. If I didn't pray, so for me to chant the 16 rounds, I invest about 2 hours per day, and that inspires me with clarity to live effectively, efficiently, purposefully, like that. And the other main cornerstone for me in my spiritual life the past 40 years or so is regularly reading Srila Prabhupada's books, such as Bhagavad Gita as it is. You're welcome if you'll use the beads for chanting or gift them to someone else for chanting. You're welcome to use the beads, to keep the beads. And so, and it's not like you need to make a vow of 16 rounds per day, but maybe you want to incorporate from wherever you're at, 1 round per day or 30 rounds per day. But, yeah, generally speaking, to progress in transforming the mind from enemy to friend, generally speaking, to solidly progress, it requires commitment. And committing to this, chanting this mantra is it's been the greatest gift I've gotten in my life from Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, thanks for your presence and participation. In the next part of our program, we'll chant mantra in the form of kirtan. Where are we going to do it? This room, outside?
Here.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll just get a big circle in here, and Ashwani and somebody would need to help with this outside. We should just in the other.